Hello, everybody. It's happy to have you here. And I will give you the brief introduction about what happened in China in the past 6 months about blockchain. Give it some self-introduction. I used to be a lawyer and more than 10 years experience in IP protection. And I founded a company called Dianrong, a leading P2P platform in 2012. And we closed the 6th round of funding, and the Tiger Global, Stan Charter, GIC from Singapore are our strategic investors. And right now, I'm focused on the blockchain investment, and I'm also the chairman of the China Blockchain Research and Application Center. I will bring all the blockchain industry to US, and I will be the bridge between the US and China. So what happened in China about blockchain in the past 6 months? We know Chinese government banned the ICO last September. And why? Because it's a decentralized concept scared the Chinese government. So, but we can see for the past 6 months, 6 years, Fintech growing super fast in China. And why? Because inclusive supervision of the Fintech. And in P2P industry, we have more than 6 years without any license. In payment industry, without license, we are running more than 7 years. But we can see what happened in US. When Lending Club founded in 2007, and after 6 months, the SEC asked them to stop the business and close the door. After another 6 months, they just issued the first license about the P2P. So that's the reason why Chinese P2P industry is 10 times than American. And the blockchain, we can see the central government of China, they even write in the government report to encourage blockchain growing super fast in the next 10 years. And for the regulatory framework, I have a chat with my friend in New York. He's a regulator of America. He told me, because of the frame of the legal regulatory, he thinks the American maybe will lose advantages in Fintech. Why? In China, you know, the central government have the superpower and they can do any decision immediately. They don't need a long time process to negotiate again and again. But in US, you know, you have the OCC, CFTC, CFPB. If you want to pass one regulation, it needs a long time to negotiate and discussing and arguing. So he gave me the example. When last September, the CFPB issued the non-action letter to give the Fintech startups. If you breach the laws, he can give you a waive from any legal responsibility, and you can do it, move forward, even it looks like you breached existing law. So it's a huge innovation. But whenever some startup could really apply for this non-action letter, the OCC said, oh, I cannot say yes, I cannot say no. I don't encourage you to do something innovative. So the regulator from OCC, even just talking about they are still using some check. They print some check and upload to the system. They think it's innovation. But in China, you know, we have never used any bank check. So right now, we can see the active market and the cautious government, there is a conflict in China. Because of the time limitation, I will leave enough time for our panelists to discuss more about the regulatory part. So right now, we can see in Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, they are encouraging Fintech and like blockchain growing in their country. And the following strategy is for the big country like China and American. All the regulatory from such kind of big government, they say, let the small country do first. If it proved good, we will follow. What's the future in the blockchain? I will invite two panelists on the stage. One is Mr. Zhou, and one is Hal. Mr. Zhou is graduated from Stanford University, and he is also the CEO of iDNA, a blockchain company. Please, Mr. Zhou. And Mr. Hal, he is the CEO of Cellink. They will build up the public chain for gaming. So they are all entrepreneurs, and let's discuss about what we are talking about a few minutes ago. Yeah, thank you. Hal?
Thank you, Kevin.
So before we start the panel, I will give 2 minutes for each panelist to give a short introduction of themselves. Please, Ms. Zhou.
Yeah, my name is Zhou Huijun. I have been an entrepreneur and investor in the healthcare industry. After I got my PhD at Cornell University, I come to Stanford University School of Medicine, become trained as a board-certified medical geneticist. Being at the Silicon Valley, we become an entrepreneur. So I helped be part of the founding team for the DNA Direct, the first online genetic service company provided through internet. After this company was acquired by medical insurance company, I went back to my home country, China, to start iDNA. iDNA started to be as the first company to provide a genetic service on the internet, and it provided broad range of service to reduce the childhood disability. So we have been doing a lot of work in the electronic health record, in genetic service, as well as AI research. We started working on the blockchain very, very early on because data availability as well as data privacy is the core of healthcare industry. And also, not only in my own company, also as a healthcare investor, we touch a broad range of technology and startups in this area. I hope I will be able to elaborate on later.
Okay, Hal?
Hi, everyone. Is it on?
You can use
I'll try that one. Okay. Hi, everyone. That's better. So my name's Hal Baim. I'm CEO of Cellink. Very happy to be invited on the panel. The three of us got to know each other a bit over lunch, and really happy to be up here with both of them, because blockchain needs more people like the two of you, for sure. My background's mainly in the area of video games. So I left the US just after university, hoping to just spend 1 year in Prague, which turned into 4, which then turned into 15 years in Eastern Europe. So I'm a big fan of emerging markets and emerging technology. I started to kind of seriously work in gaming back in 2002, where I was leading Sony PlayStation's expansion into Eastern Europe. So I had everything between China and Germany, which is more countries than I can probably count or spell. And from that, I went on to a company called Codemasters, where that was based in the UK, and took over international for them. Got heavily involved with Formula One, which is what brought me out to Asia, China, where I lived in Singapore for 6 years and kind of traveled the region. But about 2 years into that, I got into esports, started an esports mobile gaming platform based in Singapore, which focused on emerging markets, low bandwidth, PvP play, and synchronous gaming. And that, weirdly enough, led me into blockchain and cryptocurrency, because I wanted to make Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies part of the payment. Because for emerging markets, of course, that it's blockchain and cryptocurrency really is perfect. A little bit like mobile allowed, African countries to skip mainframe computing. They could go straight to mobile. Crypto allows a lot of emerging markets to do the same. So I've been following the space for a while, and then got kind of heavy into some advisory companies, and 2 companies I co-founded, one in LA, one in Singapore, and now CEO of Cellink, where we're building the world's first and fastest public blockchain for gaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question for both of the panelists is, different countries have different policy for blockchain and ICOs. And after last September, more and more entrepreneurs in China, they move out and relocate to the Bay Area and Japan, maybe Korea.
Yeah.
So do you think it's the right way to do that? Or you can see the cross-nation regulatory arbitrator, do you think it's a long time phenomenon, or what's the future?
The regulatory consideration really is at the core about our strategy. IDNA, we have looked extensively in this area. We started in China, and the founding team have always been both in Silicon Valley as well as in Beijing and a couple cities in China. So so we thought very carefully, and since the last year, first the regulatory environment in China had changed, and then early this year, the regulatory environment in Bay Area, in America has been changed. So now the focus, the advisor and the legal counsel have directed us to Singapore.
Okay, so Hal, I know you will issue the coins and have the ICO project. So what's your opinion, and what's your choice and option for your ICO project?
Yeah, I think, oops, hold on. How are we doing?
Yeah, try again.
Musical microphones. I think you said it well. I mean, it changes almost daily now, the regulatory in the countries. The lawyers are making good money keeping up with everything. But, for me, not just having lived in Singapore, but I think Singapore is becoming a very popular place to do this now. One, because really throughout Asia, Singapore has kind of led contractual obligations, rule of law. It's very tough to enforce a lot of things around parts of Asia. You don't really have that issue in Singapore. They also have the regulatory body, the main one being the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who tend to be very clear in their guidelines and what they say. And I think with blockchain and crypto, they've been no different. They said very clearly, we have no issue with token sales, cryptocurrency, et cetera, and we will leave it to the banks, the local banks in the area, to decide whether they want to, embrace these accounts and businesses or not. So we're looking at Singapore for our token sale, but obviously you're seeing changes around the world. I mean, you've got places like, the US changes every quarter, and you've got more regulatory bodies here with CFTC and FinCEN and SEC, and it's a lot of very cool acronyms that's very difficult to keep straight. And that's why you see more and more people doing it, outside the US, but also in the US, because they're getting closer to these guidelines. I think this conversation will be much clearer in 12 to 18 months. Regulatory activity is a good thing. If people were around in this room, they remember .com in the early 90s, it was a bit crazy for a while with some web businesses and websites and things. It's no different with any emerging technology. So, in 4 or 5 years, we'll be sitting back going, God, can you believe how crazy it was with blockchain? And things will clear up, and regulatory brings credibility, it brings legitimate money, it brings Wall Street, it brings funds. So it's a good thing. It'd be nice to have guidance faster. I think that's the main thing that everybody wants.
So Starlink is a good example that they have a huge business in China. They are one of the leading gaming companies in China. But now you can see it's international. They have the foreign CEO and expand the business out of China. So I think this will be a phenomenon for the future, and even at least for the next 5 years. And more Chinese talents are going international under pressure. And the second question is about the tokens. And in China, the Chinese government is sensitive about the token and the coins. And they even want to raise a government fund more than 110 billion RMB, and they call it blockchain fund without coins. So the second question is about, do you think that token should be combined with blockchain and can never be separately, or you can see they can develop independently?
Chinese government has always been nervous about fintech and the blockchain and the crypto. And it has never been changed. So we have been very, very cautious about that. So we are, as entrepreneurs and as well as investors, we believe that the blockchain the token can be separated. So the blockchain is a technology that's here to stay. It's an enabled technology that is facilitating peer-to-peer data transfer. In the healthcare industry, there's a huge lead for blockchain technology that really solve the data availability and the data privacy problem. For example, the data buyer for our industry are maybe pharmaceutical company. They need those genetic data. They need the medical record data for developed drugs. And the owners are individuals like us. And the blockchain really ensures this privacy and make sure it empower the individuals. And one of the discussion we had, and among our panelists during the lunch, we were talking about how to finance the drug development. People has been talking about, we maybe issue bond to finance the cancer drug development. Now the new thing is move on to we will issue bid bond to financing the cancer drug development, and we be able to maybe to have people sign up based on family history and also their genetic profiles, and knowing that their privacy will be protected, and also knowing that they will be benefit from the development.
I think we're running out of time here, so very quickly. The question is always asked, the difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain. Bitcoin is a coin, it's cryptocurrency. Blockchain is, the highway that all these things run on and the underlying code base. It'd be a bit, to always have them separated would be a bit like having the internet without websites. So yes, blockchain technology is going to change fintech, it's going to change healthcare, it's going to change insurance, real estate, but to really get the most out of it, you do need some crypto-specific businesses, and the coins are the way to activate, transactions and make people feel a part of it and connected to those businesses. So yes, they're separated, but I do think they're very dependent on one another.
Okay, so we close this forum. Yeah, okay. Thank you for audience.
Thanks, everyone.
And if you need a further discussion, welcome.
Thanks for the organizer.